From the top rope to your collection, this is collecting the 1, 2, 3 presented by Cardboard Dugout. I am your host, Moon 3PO, and once again, it's just me, Oos. I am by myself. Again, if you guys have been tuning into the pod, you've been tuning into the content, you guys will know that BroPo is busy being a father of two, so he is currently busy with that on father duties. Jim Bro, who's came in the last couple episodes, or hasn't really been in the last couple episodes, dude's in his own world, and he's busy doing his own thing. So we do late night recording, so it's kind of a little difficult for him to kind of come in because, again, he's busy in the morning. He does his own thing, so that's why he's not here or hasn't been here for the last couple episodes. So once again, it's just me, Oos. It's just me, and you guys I'm fine with that. I love coming in here by myself, talking shop, talking cards, talking wrestling. So I have no issues with that. By this be here by myself. Obviously, love having my brothers here with me. We'll love to have them here. Eventually, they will be back. But the show goes on. We have to continue it here. So it's post-WrestleMania. It's post-Raw and SmackDown episodes. So we're kind of conjoin both of them together, kind of give my thoughts on each episode. I'm going to quickly go through it because obviously you guys have already seen that. You guys are probably have consumed other content or got some other ideas. But of course, wanted to talk about, what I thought about the episodes. Obviously, WWE, Triple H, acknowledge that these are big episodes for the rest. I think this is like the first time that we've ever seen them acknowledge that these are big episodes. So it's pretty cool to see that. And then also we're going to talk some cards, talk some shop. We're going to talk the Raw and SmackDown debut patches. Because I don't want to say there's controversy, but I think there's a lot of confusion with those debut patches. Not the WrestleMania patches. Those were pretty simple. But it's specifically the Raw and SmackDown patches that we're going to dive a little bit more into, that I feel like I think there needs to be some clarification from Tomps and or WWE and or Fanatics, that I think they need to clarify some things. So hopefully when the next couple of weeks or whenever we get that set announced, hopefully we get some type of clear picture of what a debut is. And obviously we're going to talk about that later as we approach the episode. So yeah, I wanted to get this out. Hopefully you guys are listening to this on Monday. So obviously this is before Monday Night Raw. So obviously things might have changed or we might get some confirmation. So, but yeah. Let's just roll with it. So let's first talk about Raw. Obviously, we'll go throughout the week. Maybe we'll conjoin some things. Obviously, the opening segment of Raw kind of goes into the opening segment of SmackDown. But Raw opens up with the 17-time champion, the GOAT, John Cena, once again cutting his heel promo on the fans. Kind of the same things that we've kind of heard a little bit. Kind of saying, if the fans are, worthless, that he's turned his back on them. It's been an abusive relationship for the last 20-25 years. We kind of saw that on both promos. And then of course on Monday Night Raw, saw that being interrupted by Randy Orton with an RKO. And then on Friday Night SmackDown, we saw Randy Orton actually, right before Cena was able to get a word in, Randy Orton interrupts, and then we get the immediate promo between both two, which I think that was a stellar promo. Probably one of the better heel promos that we got from Cena. Really great heel work from him. They talked about, Randy Orton talks about him not, the reason why he's doing this because he's not a father and that he has a void, and that John Cena then calls out a kid saying that his father didn't raise him well, and then the kid flicks him off, and John Cena plays into that. So overall, great promo by the two. It feels like we're in an Urge 2 type situation where it's reversed. It's really, really weird that we have a heel John Cena and heel Randy Orton. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I love it. I absolutely love that they're doing it. And but it just feels very weird. I never did I think I would see a heel Cena and a baby face. I guess a baby faced Randy Orton. I also say a face, but he's not a true baby face, but a face Orton to me just still feels very weird. That doesn't feel weird. His face, he's better as a heel, but it feels weird that we're getting these two in opposite parallels that we've seen from the last 25 years from John Cena, 25 years from John Cena. So it is very weird. And then of course towards the end, they both got physical, which was good to see. Obviously John Cena has just been eating finishers. He ate Cody's Crossroads twice, or 3 times, I should say. I think he ate it 3 times, right? And then Orton obviously got the RKO on him on Monday, got the RKO on him on Friday, but John Cena also getting physical, kind of taking a cheap shot at him once again. And then, of course, getting the confirmation that at Backlash in St. Louis, that on May 10th, I believe, is it May 10th? I believe Backlash is. We will be getting John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. So that is going to be a great match. I think I also haven't read into it yet, but I think they're confirming that this is the last time ever. So it looks like it might be a one and done for Cena and Orton. Hopefully that's not the case. I would like to see him, maybe try to prolong it, but I definitely understand, Cena has a list of opponents that he needs to hit. Obviously, Cody has to be one. CM Punk has to be another one. And then obviously see what carries him on for the rest of the year. So, yeah, overall, I'm excited for it. I love it. I think they're doing it well. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit worried to see how it was going to work. But I think they're going to make it work. And their match is going to be killer at Backlash. No question about that. So, yeah, excited to see that match. Some other big key moments that we saw on Raw was the return of Rusev. Rusev looked great. He interrupted the tag team match. I say tag team match in quotation because we knew the New Day was not going to fight Alpha Academy. They didn't look prepared at all to fight. They weren't in their wrestling gear. So it was nice to see Rusev. Dude look great. Quadzilla. Dude look ripped. It's going to be interesting to see if Lana comes back. I believe I also saw that she signed a Legends contract. So I don't know if they're going to be intertwined again. Obviously, the last time we saw Rusev in WWE was that horrible storyline with Liv Morgan, Bobby Lashley. That was doomed to fail right from the beginning. Obviously, you know who that idea was. But, yeah, he looked great. I'm curious to see where that's going to go with him personally. Obviously, there's another superstar too that we're going to talk about on Friday that we saw return. But I'm curious to see specifically where Rusev goes because when he was on the first run with WWE, he was a great U.S. champion, had that great heel run. The tank entrance at WrestleMania, one of the top entrances of all of WrestleMania history. Of course, then loses to John Cena, and then after that, kind of fell underway a little bit. Never really got anywhere. Rusev Day kind of popped off with Aiden English. I know the crowd was chanting Rusev Day. I'm curious to see if WWE plays into that. Me personally, I would like to see him get away from that a little bit because I think this is a completely fresh new Rusev and a completely fresh new management, obviously with WWE and creative. So I would love to see them kind of step away from it. But if not, I obviously understand it. Rusev Day was very popular when he was here before he got released. So yeah, going to be curious to see where that moves here moving forward. Another return that we got on Sunday's WrestleMania was Becky Lynch, who was a tag team champion with Lyra Valkyria for less than 24 hours because they ended up dropping the titles back to Liv Morgan and Raquel. And then, of course, we got the heel turn from Becky Lynch. Now that I didn't see it coming. I thought they would have prolonged that title reign a little bit for them. Like BroPo mentioned, they're kind of playing a little bit hot potato with those titles, specifically the women's tag team titles that we're speaking of. But I think this played out great as well because, one, it can hopefully maybe get Bayley back into the picture. I know there was a lot of chatter online about Bayley. She did the interview with Chris Van Vliet, and I know that kind of turned a lot of heads because she was saying that she doesn't feel, as talented or I don't know what the exact quote was, I'm paraphrasing, but she doesn't feel that she's at the Charlotte level, the Sasha level when it came to those women, and the Becky level. So I'm curious to see if they play into that. And obviously Triple H acknowledged that in the post conference, that saying that in their press conference after WrestleMania that she's going to be fine, she's a pro, she knew what the storyline was going to be. Supposedly this is a story that was planned all along. It wasn't like a late minute or last minute type situation. So maybe they play into the fact that Becky was the one that attacked Bayley to set up this, and then they go off to their own feud. Or maybe, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if this, obviously with the attack, that this leads to a Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria storyline with the IC title in play. If you guys listened to the last pod that we had with BroPo, you guys know that I was not a fan of Lyra Valkyria being involved in the tag team match. One, not because of her personally and her as a wrestler. I think she's a great wrestler, great talent. But I feel like if you're going to have a mid-card women's title, like the IC title, like the women's title, we'll talk about that in a little bit too. I feel like you got to promote those titles. You got to make sure that they have some type of significance. I think Chelsea Green did that. And I think who won on Friday, we're going to talk about that too. I think we'll also do that. But I feel like we haven't gotten that with the IC title. We had it for like a smidgen when they had their, matches with Dakota Kai, but it never really went anywhere after that. And I think she's just kind of been floundering around and hasn't really done anything with the title. And it's not her fault. Obviously, it's creative and management, how they've handled that title. So having Becky Lynch being involved in that, I think that's going to be very, very exciting. It hopefully bring some legitimacy to that title. And then, of course, once Bayley comes into that mix, obviously we'll see that coming along. Excuse me here again. When you're rocking a one man pod, it's tough to do this when you don't have a co-host. Usually when you have a co-host or you're talking to people, you have your time to break in, get some water, because talking for 30 to 40 minutes by yourself, that mouth is gonna get dry. So excuse me here. Next up here, and then, again, I want to save this off, but I don't want to forget. People are probably listening to like, how you're not going to mention the match, because we're going to talk about the match, but obviously, we had the Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer match. That match was phenomenal. Stephanie, Io absolutely killed it. Again, I don't want to go into much detail here, because towards the end, after we recap both episodes, we're going to talk about specific debuts and who showed up during that match, but I don't want to ignore that at all as I'm going through the recap of Raw. Fantastic match. Love Stephanie Vaquer. Love Io. Those are probably like my two favorite women's superstars right now. So the fact that we got them on a match on Monday Night Raw, not like a PLE down the line, not like an NXT match, absolutely phenomenal. Love that match. Ended in no contest. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but phenomenal match. You protect both of your superstars, which is what you needed to do. Absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, Jey Uso obviously got his celebration. That was a nice celebration. Obviously, got Sami Zayn coming out, Jimmy Uso coming out. It looks like they kind of teased us there for a little bit. I think we're going to get it at SummerSlam, though, but we kind of teased a little bit of a Sami Uso turn. I believe it was when Jay was just up there by himself and Sami was just in the ring. He's kind of like looking behind his shoulder a little bit. That would have been like killer if that was a heel turn, but obviously they want to give Jay his flowers a little bit more, kind of have him celebrate for the rest of the week. And like, all right. After that, go into play. I know Penta and Dominic also had a match. Fine match. Penta getting his first singles loss, which is a little, I don't want to say surprising, but they get his first singles loss here to the new IC champion, Dominic Mysterio. And then, of course, the ending of Monday Night Raw was the heel, or not, the new faction that we have here was Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins coming out with Paul Heyman. They talked for a little bit and they got interrupted by CM Punk. CM Punk wasting no time. When he's taping up that wrist, he's not going in to talk. He's going into brawl. Got a couple of good licks in, a couple of good punches in on Seth Rollins. Wasn't going to get it there to Paul Heyman. And then, of course, got interrupted there and ate a curb stomp from Seth Rollins. And then, of course, right after that, we get the music from the OTC, the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns. He comes out, gets Seth Rollins a Superman punch, and then gets physical with Paul Heyman. And then, of course, right when he's about to deliver a spear to Paul Heyman, it gets interrupted by another spear from Braun Breaker, which I did not see that coming. Absolute shock. I love it though. Absolutely love it. It kind of ties back here again to the long-term storytelling. I know Paul Heyman had a little bit of a run-in with Braun Breaker down at NXT. I believe it was still NXT 2.0 if I'm not mistaken. And NXT 2.0 was absolutely terrible. We don't talk about that era of NXT for good reason, but it's nice to have a little bit of a callback to that. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. Obviously, we're going to get more clarification on Monday. Are they going to add a new member? Is it like an Evolution 2.0 where you have, Paul Heyman being like the Ric Flair type? Obviously, Ric Flair was still physical at that time, but kind of being like the established kind of guy. Seth Rollins being the Triple H. Braun Breaker, you could say he's the Batista. You could say he's the Randy Orton. Obviously, more Batista, more muscle mass, more of a big guy. So not really Randy Orton. But maybe we get another younger guy involved. I know some people are kind of throwing them like Austin Theory. I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't hate it, but to me, doesn't really make a lot of sense for me, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I absolutely love the faction. Even if they just keep it with them two, with just Seth, Braun, and Paul, would absolutely love that. And I think if you think about where the story is gonna go and the matches that it's gonna go, it makes sense to me personally. Like, you could start off with a tag team match with Seth and Braun and versus CM Punk and Roman Reigns at Backlash. And then you can even have Reigns versus Braun Breaker, Spear versus Spear. I can see them promoting something like that. And then obviously you can have your Seth Rollins and CM Punk have that feud kind of, I don't want to say conclude, but they are tied technically 1-1. You had CM Punk getting the win over Seth Rollins on the debut of Netflix. Obviously, you had Seth Rollins then getting the victory of CM Punk and the steel cage match. Obviously, you put a little bit of asterisk next to that just because obviously Roman Reigns pulls Seth Rollins out of the steel cage. Obviously, not really a clean victory, but it counts as a victory. So you can definitely do that. You know, if that's at, I believe, is Payback after that. I'm not too sure what comes after what comes after Backlash. But I mean, maybe that's a SummerSlam type thing. I maybe you prolong it that long to the summer. I say that long, but it's only a couple of months, so I could definitely see them prolonging it that long. I would have loved to see. I want to see Cena and Punk at SummerSlam. I think kind of having that little bit of a nod, obviously, with their history at that PLE. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think that faction is going to do wonders. It's definitely exciting. It's fresh. I think this was probably one of the best Monday Night Raws that we saw post WrestleMania in a long time. So again, curious to see where it does there moving forward, and definitely keep an eye on here. And obviously, we'll be talking about it here. We talked about the John Cena thing for Friday Night SmackDown, so we're not going to talk too much about that. Then we had the tag team match of Fraxium versus Los Garzas. Absolutely fast-paced match. Again, we'll talk about a little bit more of the match and towards the end of the pod when we talk about the debut patches. I think there's some interesting things with those patches, but yeah, absolutely fantastic match. They did announce there on SmackDown that this is their official debut on SmackDown. That they're officially called up. They're gonna be on the SmackDown brand, adding to that tag team. Did my pod just stop? Oh, never mind. All right, we'll cut it here. Yeah, absolutely fantastic tag team match with Fraxium then being added to the SmackDown tag team picture, which we're going to talk about that tag team match. Absolutely phenomenal match. That tag team division has really been rejuvenated a little bit more. So exciting to see. We had Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton. Again, a fine match, nothing too crazy. We had obviously the no contest, but we then got the return of Nia Jax. I like Nia Jax. I think the second run has been great for her. And I say second run, obviously getting rehired by WWE. But I'm not going to lie. I do not like that she's thrown once again into the picture against Tiffany Stratton. We've already seen that. Would have been nice to see, Tiffany get a new opponent, a new fresh feud. But I guess this kind of just protects her in a little bit of a way to kind of go and get something, freshen up by the time the summer comes around for SummerSlam. But yeah, wasn't a big fan. Again, like the return, love Nia. I think she's a great talent. Second run has been tremendous. All right, tremendous is a strong word. It's been good. It's been all right. But yeah, it to me didn't really do anything for me there. Once again, gotta get another drink of water here. All right. Next up, we then had Jacob Fatu, kind of getting his Jey Uso type celebration where everybody's just going in chanting his name. That was a really cool moment. Obviously, already tying into the nod of the tension between Solo and Jacob Fatu. Was a little bit surprising as what I will say in that segment that we got Drew McIntyre involved in this segment. I didn't think he was going to be thrown into the U.S. picture, so I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. I love that Drew would be going for a U.S. title, I think, and obviously with the ties to the bloodline and that view that he's had with them for so long. So was nice to see that. Obviously LA Knight still being involved. Obviously they had a match towards the end of the episode there. But yeah, it was a nice little segment. Nice, tying into the tension between the bloodline and obviously I think Drew McIntyre, Jacob Fatu, LA Knight type match. Maybe even if you want to throw in Solo, you can. But I think that match would tear the house down. Next up here, we had Chelsea Green versus Selena Vega. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I did not see Selena Vega winning the title. It came as a true surprise. I thought Chelsea Green would have held the title a little bit longer. A phenomenal run for Chelsea Green in her first U.S. title run. But yeah, I think I did not see it coming. So when I saw her get the pinfall, I was like, what the? To me, it was, and it came really quickly too. Like it came right after Alba Fire and Piper Niven interrupted or got thrown out, and then it ended really quickly. So it wasn't a very long match, but they did, make it work, and it was a fine match. Because I would have thought maybe with the secret, what do they call it? The Secret Harvest, I believe is what they called, between Alba Fire and Piper Niven. I thought we would have saw a little bit more of that dynamic with them three, and obviously Chelsea Green being the U.S. Women's Champion. Thought we would have saw that a little bit more, but obviously Chelsea Green lost. So I mean, obviously the faction's not over, but I think her protecting the U.S. title. We know what we would love to see that just a little bit more. But kudos to Zelina Vega. Obviously, she's had her time here on the roster as a singles competitor. Obviously, was also with LWO. Had a nice little nod in her backstage promo with Ray and Eddie, so it was nice to see that. But yeah, good kudos to Zelina Vega. I think she's a good enough talent to carry that title. Going to be interested to see who's going to be her next opponent after. I'm assuming Chelsea Green would get a title shot, a rematch title shot. So, going to be curious to see where it goes from here. I think she'll be a fantastic babyface women's champion. And yeah, don't really have too much to say about that. And then straight after that, we had the return of Aleister Black, was a nice little nod. Obviously, Zelina Vega and Aleister Black are a real life couple, so it was nice to see them get their. It was a cool little power couple moment, I would say. And shout out to Aleister Black, look great. Quick little segment here. Also a little nod to the Miz. Miz looked great in the white, kind of counteracting to Aleister Black. I believe when Aleister Black debuted in AEW, I believe I think Cody was also wearing white. No, if I'm not mistaken, somebody has to quote me on that. But I didn't watch too much AEW back then. But Aleister Black looking great, looking fantastic. Did not get Def Rebelled, which was very important. He kept his music, which I was so scared of. I was like, man, please do not get Def Rebelled. Do not get a new entrance. Your intro music was fine. He had the same entrance when he comes up with his hands crossed, kind of coming up there, like kind of coming up from a coffin a little bit. So I'm very, very excited for this run for Aleister Black. Obviously, if you guys watched his NXT stuff before he got called up, phenomenal matches, phenomenal run. And when he got called up to the main roster, obviously, you guys can tell that Vince did not know what the hell he was working with or didn't know how to handle him. So I'm very, very excited under this Triple H regime. What they do with Aleister Black. Obviously, a nice little feud with the Miz will be fine as an introductory. But, post, Miz feud or post couple of matches with the Miz, where he goes from there. Is it being involved with the U.S. title? Is it being thrown to the Undisputed Championship or, a main title or a main title feud? I think that's going to be a big thing for him. So, yeah, I'm very, very excited. Again, love they kept the music, love they kept the entrance, and I'm very, very excited for this second run for Aleister Black. We then had a match with LA Knight and Drew McIntyre. Again, that ended in no contest. Was a fine match, wasn't nothing too crazy. We did get Damian Priest involved in that as well. So even if you want to throw him to the U.S. picture mix, I think that, again, that's a fine match. So yeah, nothing really too crazy to write home about that. And then, of course, towards the end of the last match, I believe Cody was promoted for this episode of SmackDown. But I think obviously time got involved because the last match was the Street Profits versus DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns in the TLC. One of the best tag team TLC matches that we've had, and I would say ever. And yeah, that match left me absolutely speechless. If you guys know, they were cut from the WrestleMania card, and those guys went out there and showed out and went out and proved that they should have been on that card. There's no reason why the War Raiders and the New Day had a match on the WrestleMania card and not SmackDown and not these guys. All three teams involved went out there like they had something to prove, and they absolutely did. I believe Wade Barrett also had a very good quote on it. I don't know what exactly what his quote was, but kind of talking to kind of had the idea and said something that was all on the minds of fans, because yeah, they all had their moments. They all look great. One little funny and key moment was Montez Ford taking that fan's prosthetic leg and hitting him with it. That was a funny little moment. I believe even Ford and Dawkins wore like Shawn Michaels inspired gear. That was a cool little night. I believe Shawn Michaels, Montez was kind of wearing like the X singlet or like the X kind of type deal. So that was cool to see. Yeah, there was just a lot of great moments. Obviously, we had the hanging of, I believe, was it Gargano or who was hanging? I believe it was Ciampa that was hanging. Then we had Dawkins do the spear. So a lot of nice little nods, a lot of nice little cool little moments. But yeah, it was just a fantastic match. After the match ended, they uploaded it on YouTube, and I rewatched it. Absolutely fantastic match. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go watch that match. Again, it's probably one of the best tag team or TLC matches that we've seen in a long time, and I think that match can honestly be considered one of the best tag team TLCs in all of WWE history. Absolutely fantastic match. Again, match should have been on the WrestleMania card. A shame that it wasn't, but I think it motivated all superstars involved to go out and absolutely tear the house down. Again, absolutely love that match here. Now, before we head into our last segment, we're going to talk about those patches a little bit more. But again, got to get another drink of water. Again, it's tough out here. It's tough out here. I don't know what it is. You can kind of already hear it kind of going away here. So one more time. All right, there it is. All right, hopefully that's the last drink of water. If you guys hear me swallowing there, I don't know. I just said that. So, all right, let's talk about these patches. Again, we're not talking about the WrestleMania patches. We talked about them enough, but let's talk about the SmackDown and Raw debut patches, because there was a lot of confusion on these patches, and I think it needs to be. I think honestly, Toms and Fanatics need to clarify what the heck is up with these patches, because again, this is coming from the Tom Script article. It says here, main roster debut patch. Then starting with Monday Night Raw on April 21st, any superstar making their first official main roster appearance will debut the main roster debut patch. Superstars supporting debut patches will continue with every future Raw or SmackDown debut. Post-match, these patches will be transformed into autograph authenticated one-of-ones, primarily preserving the moment that career began on the big stage. Again, that's officially coming from the Tom Script article. Now, if you go back to Monday Night Raw, we saw, like we talked about a little bit, we saw the Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky match. Unless I'm blind and did not see it, Stephanie Vaquer did not have a Raw debut patch. She did not have a Raw debut patch. It wasn't on her coat. It wasn't on the horns that she wears. It wasn't on her attire when she was wrestling. She was not wearing a Raw debut patch. Now, thanks to the good folks on Twitter, I didn't see it because the match got interrupted by Julia and Roxanne Perez. I did not see it at first, but I did make a video where Julia was wearing the debut patch on her shoe, on the back. I believe it was like a back of her left shoe, if I'm not mistaken. So that makes sense, right? Because obviously that's her first official debut on the main roster. She's debuted officially, and she was wearing the patch. Makes perfect sense. But Roxanne Perez was wearing a patch there. Shout out again to the good folks over on Twitter or X, where you want to call it, because I put out a tweet that that Stephanie Vaquer wasn't wearing a patch. But then they talked about Roxanne Perez, and they put a picture. I believe she had it on the right side of her, on her boot, on the inside of her boot. But the confusing part of that is that was not Roxanne Perez's debut. She's been on the main roster before. She's had matches with Raquel Rodriguez. She's had matches with Bayley. She's been involved in tag team matches. Hell, she was a part of the Elimination Chamber. So that was not her first official debut. So why did she have a patch and not Stephanie Vaquer? Because that's what's technically Stephanie Vaquer's debut patch, an official appearance on the Raw brand. Granted, yes, she's not a part of the Raw roster. She's still a part of NXT. But this article, again, does not talk about that you have to be officially be called up. Again, it says first official main roster appearance, which that was Stephanie Vaquer's first official main roster appearance, and not Roxanne Perez. And that even adds on to more of the confusion, because Fraxium, who made their debut on SmackDown officially as a tag team, even though both Axiom and Nathan Frazier have had their single matches on the rosters, they were not supporting SmackDown debut patches. I didn't see them. I haven't seen any pictures on Twitter or anything like that, or I didn't see anything on Reddit of people saying like, oh, they're wearing their debut patches, nor did Tops post out a picture of them, wearing their debut patches. So I think there needs to be a lot of clarification on that, because again, it doesn't make sense for Roxanne Perez to have a debut patch. It doesn't make sense that Stephanie Vaquer didn't have a debut patch, and especially because, and again, when you think about it like this too, Julia, that she obviously is still down at NXT, so. Well, again, why does she have a debut patch and not Stephanie Vaquer? Again, maybe I just missed it. I haven't seen anybody take a picture or pose a screenshot of them with her specifically wearing her debut patch. So I think there just needs to be a lot of clarification. I honestly, when they announced these patches, I kind of had a feeling this was gonna happen, because when you do it in baseball, when you do it in MLS, or you do it in any other sport, obviously it's very easy for you to know when your major league debut is. Obviously, when you're a baseball player and you're making your first game in MLB with your major league team, that's your major league debut. You're going to get the patch on your sleeve. When you in soccer, same thing with MLS. So, but with WWE and wrestling, it can be a little bit tricky. Like, what is your official main roster debut? What is your call up? Is your debut just cutting a promo? Is your debut getting physical? Having an official match? What's considered your first official debut? For me, your debut is when you're on the roster. You make your jump to not make your jump. For me, a debut is when you show up for the first time on those brands. If you're still down at NXT and you're making your first appearance on that brand in front of a live audience, that to me is your debut, and you should be wearing a patch. So again, I think there needs to be a lot of clarification on those. I haven't seen any correspondence from Tops regarding that. So keep an eye out there for the social. I will be, obviously, we'll be talking about it here on the pod. We'll be talking about it here on, my other forms of content. So keep an eye out there for those, if you get some more clarification. I think they need to come out and say something, maybe shows like some backstage stuff. I know WWE posted a YouTube video of the patches a little bit. I believe they showed the War Raiders getting the patches on. So it was cool to see that. But yeah, again, they need to clarify some things. They need to come out with an official statement. Hopefully we can get this addressed and find out what official debut it is on according to Tops and Fanatics, and which superstars get a debut patch. Hell, maybe they put the patch on the wrong person. Maybe they meant to put it on Cedric Recur and they put it on Roxanne Perez. I don't know. But yeah, again, I think there needs to be a little bit of clarification on that moving forward, especially when we get like the draft is coming up. I'm pretty sure the draft is coming up. We're going to get more call-ups. So yeah, I think again, a clarification needs to be made. But yeah, guys, that's all I really had. Again, when you're doing a one-man show, it's just me talking shop. So, there's nobody I can bounce these ideas off of. So obviously, if you guys want to continue to talk wrestling cards, obviously we had that conversation on Twitter like a late Saturday night, late or early Sunday morning. So again, if you guys want to talk cards, want to talk wrestling, I always love, people leave me comments on TikTok and they think they're bothering me. You guys do not bother me. I love talking cards, love talking wrestling. So if you guys want to carry this conversation, please feel free to follow me at my other social medias at Moon3PO. That's Twitter, X, where you want to call it these days, Instagram, TikTok. You guys can follow me on there. We can definitely carry on the conversation there. If you guys are listening on Spotify and Apple, please feel free to leave a like and follow and leave a rating on this podcast so I can know what I'm doing good, what I need to do better. Because obviously, I'm open to any type of feedback, and whatever I can do to improve the pod, I'm willing to do it. So please feel free to do all that. If you guys are listening and watching on YouTube, for the visual watchers, again, please feel free to leave a comment down below. What do you guys think about these patches? What do you guys think about post Raw and Smackdown? It's not in the comments down below. And if you guys haven't yet, please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, add Moon3PO. That's a free way to help support me and support the comment, and I will appreciate if you guys do all that. Obviously, it pushes out the videos more, it pushes out the pod more. So if you guys are doing those actions, it helps supports me and shows me that you guys are enjoying it, and it motivates me even more to push out more content to you guys. So make sure you're doing all that. I do thank you guys for listening and watching, and we will see y'all in the next one.